Well, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate your work. Look, there has been a lot of hard work and a lot of late nights that have gone into changing the spending trajectory in this town that has brought us to this point where we've got over $31 trillion in debt. And tonight is no different. You see how late it is? The work's not going to stop for a long time. There's a lot of work that needs to continue to go into fixing all of the problems that President Biden has created. You see inflation through the roof. You see the struggles that hardworking families are experiencing because Washington went on a multi-trillion-dollar spending binge over the last 2 years. And Joe Biden didn't want that spending binge to end. But the American people had a different idea when they elected a House Republican majority committed to finally getting spending under control in Washington. And that's what this bill is about. You know, something you haven't seen in a long time in this town is that when a major bill comes to the floor, we actually give our members time to read the bill before you vote on it. We have a 72-hour minimum that we allow every member to read the bill. And the more that people read in this bill, the more they find in terms of real conservative victories that are going to help us get spending under control and get our economy back on track. And you have to do both. You will never get to a balanced budget unless you do two major things. One is control Washington's spending obsession, but also you've got to help get people back to work. You've got to help get the economy moving again. And there are a number of pieces in this bill that never would have existed if Nancy Pelosi was still Speaker of the House. Everybody knows that if we were at this point today and Republicans were in the minority in the House, all that you would be wondering about is how much more spending was Washington going to do over current year? How many more taxes are hardworking families going to have to pay? Because guess what? Joe Biden wanted more taxes in this package, and Speaker McCarthy insisted not a dime in new taxes would be in this bill or any other bill that comes out of this House majority. And that's made crystal clear in this legislation. We restart the student loan paybacks. That's a $60 billion windfall for all of those families who actually do pay their bills, for those families that didn't go to college, or especially for those families who went to college and took out student loans and paid them back, and think it's fair that everyone else has to do the same thing they did. And it wouldn't be fair if some hardworking single mom working 2 jobs right now has to pay so that somebody who took out a student loan and is sitting at his parents' house right now, making $35,000 a year not working, she has to pay his loan back. That wouldn't be fair. And you know what else we do? We put work requirements in place, something we haven't seen in a long time. Something, by the way, that was an originated idea back when Joe Biden was a senator and he voted for it when Bill Clinton was president, working with a Republican majority. Something that helped get people out of poverty and back into the workforce. Paying into programs like Social Security that are going bankrupt under Joe Biden's spending binge, but because people will be working again. That is going to help us shore up Social Security. So this bill does all of those things and more. Real spending cuts, real reforms, permitting reforms that allow us to build roads and bridges again. Why should it take 10 years to build a road project where sometimes if a group that just wants to kill a project, you can go through all the environmental reviews, and there might be 5 different agencies that are looking at your permit, and as soon as they file lawsuits and block one area, you succeed a year and a half later, and they go file another lawsuit, and it's another year and a half. And finally, eventually, people just give up, and they stop building things in America. Well, we create a one-stop shop in this bill so that you still have to follow all the rules, but it's not gamed. You can't go from agency to agency to try to stop a project. You only go to one place, and there's shot clocks on the federal agencies. Anybody who's ever tried to build something in America, if a federal agency asks you for information, they don't just say whenever you get around to doing it, send us the information. They give you a shot clock. And if you don't meet that deadline, you're going to get fined, or you're surely not going to get your permit. And yet you give them that information, and you might wait 6 months or a year longer to hear back from the federal agency. Shouldn't the federal agency have the same shot clock that you, the taxpayer, have? We put that in this bill too. So again, there are a lot of really important reforms that are in this package, something that I think everybody has been waiting a long time to see from Washington. Not how much more is Washington going to spend, but for once, in a long, long time, Washington is actually going to spend less money next year than it is this year. And that's a reform that all of us can support. So is Garrett here? All right, with that, why don't we take